Okay, so let's move on to adding the jets to our spaceships, and we're just going to create a new context again, and we're going to call the DMP jet engines. And here we're going to import as a streaming map file our render from Nuke, which is here. And let's just have this. And let's detect the sequence. And let me also copy this. And in fact, I've rendered out another version of this jet engine, which is exactly the same in terms of the settings. However, I just changed some of the timings just to create another slightly more unique flame, just so we have two versions, and in fact I've made a third one as well. So again, very exactly the same techniques, just repeated several times in several different ways to get a little bit of variety. Okay, so now we have all of these in. Let's create new material mats, and we're going to call this jet engine 03 mat. Oh, don't ask me why I started numbering from 3. 1, 2, 3 instead, that's better. Okay, so 1, we're going to connect the color to this. 2 to 2, 3 to 3. And let's have a look. So we have the first one, the second one, and the third one. So they're all just slightly different, just to have a little bit of variety in all of these jet engines. So let me just deselect the camera here. Okay. And let's create a new shading layer, and we're going to call this jet engines SL. And let's create 3 rules. And for the materials, we're going to plug in 1, 2, 3, and also create another rule where we will make everything. Let's say for now we will use our depth material just to have a clearer idea while we're working. Let's copy this DMP airships layer, and we're just going to call it DMP jet engines. And for the geometries, let's create a new group. Yeah, let's just copy our geo all group again. And there's many different ways to do this, and we've kind of explored several different ones. So I feel like you at this point can probably figure out the best ways to group these things, and there are better ways and there are worse ways, but there are a lot of them, so I think at least you have a variety of choice for your personal circumstances. So here we're going, okay, let's get rid of this edge geo, we'll come back to that later. Here in the geo I'm going to create a new context, and I'm gonna, oh no, sorry, I've already made a new context called jets. Let's select this. Oops. Can we go back a line? Yep. And include everything in this jets context, and we'll also do the same with our airships. We'll include them as well, because they'll just be black. Click apply. And here we'll select our new group. In here for the shading layer, let's select our shading layer. Okay, so now all of these objects are shaded with Z depth. And what this does, it kind of helps us see where we are working, again, just like previously. So what we're going to do is just go to our jets folder, if I can find it. It's getting a little bit confusing now. Okay, there's our jets. And I'm just going to create a plane here, or a polygrid rather. And let me drag it down here. Whoops. Okay, and I'll stand it upright. So let's change this to, well, 90 degrees. And I'm just gonna put it here. Cool. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, let's put this here. And I'm gonna call this jet airship 01A, because we will have more than one jet per airship, so this will be A, the other one will be called B. And for our rule here, let's just copy this whole address of this geometry, but we want to vary this, so I want to apply the jet engine 1 texture to any of these polygrids that are called A, and then 2 to the ones called B, and then 3 to the ones called C, because I think 3 is the most we see on any one spaceship in this image, so that should give us enough variety at least. So how do we edit this to make this applicable to all of the polygrids that have A in them? So all we have to do is select our number 1, and instead of it, let's just put a star. And so now this means that this will be selecting all of the objects called jet airship underscore any number that we can have here, followed by A. And A, I want to all be jet engine 01 matte materials. So currently we can see here that there might be something a little bit off with this, maybe the angle. What we can do, I can here, instead of looking at just this square grid, I can instead very quickly and very roughly, for my own ease of use, create a little quick clip map. Let's bring this in here. And I'm just gonna go to our reorder node. And let me just copy this. I'll say this is clip. And put it in the input. And what I want is for these to all be the same. So I'll just select R. Actually, before I do, let's just use RGBA. And let's go to my jets. And here in the clip map, I'm going to plug this in. Okay, so actually we don't even need to change it all to one color. It kind of works as it is. But what we get now is our jet engine clipping this and cutting out the shape that we need instead of having the whole grid. Let's just quickly look at what we would have had if we just had the red channel. Okay, a slightly better maybe approximation, but just good enough. I think actually we can completely do away with this reorder and instead just clip by the texture itself. Okay, that'll be much easier. I hope I didn't lead you guys astray. I think, yeah, let's just not even do that. But what we can instantly see is, here in our jet, this is kind of showing the wrong way, so maybe let's just restore this. And, oh, whoops, not a translation. Let's change the scale all back to 1. And here maybe let's increase the size of the flame. And of course we can see it here in our live render. So let's just have it go into here. And we'll lengthen it like this maybe. Oh, too deep. Okay, so now this will be moving in sync, or not yet, but how we will make it move in sync with the ship is just by starting at, okay, let's just start at frame 50 because this is where we've positioned it. Okay, first of all, let me copy this, and I'll put this here more at the back. Okay, and I'm going to call this B. And if we go to our shading layer, let's copy the rule, and for the ones called B, we will apply, lowercase b, we will apply our second material. So now that we have these two, what we can do is, first let's make a copy for later use, and let's just disable it for now, and let's select these two. And for the parent, let's again select airship 2, which this is, combiner 1. And so now our jets move together with the airships. And what we're going to do next is take our spare plane here and just move it to our second starship. And I have many in my scene. If you have a couple, this would be a much quicker process. If you have many more than this, then maybe it's wise considering other choices, because this is a rather manual process. But for 7 airships, it's really not that much hassle, so I don't mind doing it. Okay, let's put this here maybe. Expand it this way. A little bit smaller. Okay. And let's go down here. Okay, maybe I want to put this way. And I'll just rename it to airship 2A. And we can see a slight effect down here, but maybe let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's pull this back some more. And let me copy this. And the copy I will call to C, just to have a slightly different one. And again, in our shading layer, let's change this to C. And now we have rockets on both of those. And all we have to do is select the two of them and parent to our airship 1. Oh, sorry. I've really mixed up the numbers here. I've just realized because I keep treating the more foreground airship as airship 1. Let's just switch these around. Easy enough. Okay. So this is the first one. The one in the foreground is number 2. I should have numbered them differently when I originally did it. Okay, so let's have a look. And these are traveling now with the spaceship. Fantastic. So I will let you repeat this step for all of your different layers. Not layers, all of your different airships, or whatever equivalent you may have, and whatever similar technique you're trying to do. I hope that this can be applicable. And let's just skip ahead where I have repeated this process for all of the others as well. Alright, so I've added a lot of other poly cards here with the engines for the other airships. However, there may be one thing that I'll want to fix, and let's make this a little bit more apparent. Let's go to our shading layer, and here for everything else, let's change it to a black matte. So we only have our jet engines, and let me just zoom to the nearest one. And let's just render this. So currently all of our jets have this clipping map attached, and because we are rendering black on black and we are going to be adding these jets as a plus function in Nuke, we can just disable the clip map and we get no pre-multiplication, so we get a better effect here. It was clipped just based on the brightness of the values, but if we disable that, we have a better result overall. Okay, so if we zoom out, we can see we have all of our jets as well. So now for our airships, we have the airships themselves, the jet engines, and if I drag this down a little bit, we have the depth pass for the airships as well. So I think that concludes this little bit of the tutorial. Next up, let's move on to enhancing some of the edges of our geo by adding our edge projections onto polygrids positioned throughout the scene. Okay,